Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Partner Vista webinar, AI that drives partner marketing. I'm your host, Hondo Lewis, co-founder and president at Partner Vista. I'm super excited about the subject matter we have for you today, AI, as it's all the buzz, but we want to bring it down to ground level and make it digestible. That said, I have two wonderful guests that I'll introduce you to you here shortly, but before I do, a quick word on who we are, what we do, and how we can best support here at Partner Vista. Partner Vista is a partner marketing enablement company providing plug and play co-branded engagement journey solutions for co-marketing initiatives. Our solutions are designed to enhance the better together or ecosystem story. The content environments that we create are meant to educate, engage, and nurture your target audience. These content environments can include interactive AI sessions that assist with increasing target conversion. We focus on nurture and sales activation, bringing deals closer to closed won for improved sales success. Partner Vista, built with partner marketers for partner marketers. So let me start with Bill Crowley. Founded AI Advantage Assessment and Crowley Consulting after 20 years at Tech Target, where you ran the cloud, international, purchase intent, and AI Advantage Assessment is a research entity focused on helping marketers inform decisions about where to focus their AI adoption. And Crowley Consulting provides fractional CMO and CRO services to small, mid-sized growth company. I believe you hold dual citizenship in US and UK, so you're bringing a global go-to-market perspective to us today. Bill, welcome. And where does the webinar find you and a fun fact that goes with it?
You used up my fun fact I almost always get was that after 10 years in London, I got a dual citizenship and all my kids. And so not too many people have had to raise their hand in solemn allegiance to the Queen at the time. So that was my fun fact, right?
Very nice. Very nice. Well, we'll take that. Sorry from stealing your thunder there for sure. And Ryan De La Parra, VP Field and Partner Marketing at Myriad 360, a global solutions integrator. You have over 16 years of experience building go-to-market strategies and partner programs for technology companies. Ryan, you've driven measurable revenue growth through dynamic partner ecosystems, no matter ISVs, GSIs, MSPs, the full partner acronym alphabet, if you like. You've
There's
done
too
it
many of
all.
them.
Absolutely. You currently lead global efforts to align sales, marketing, and business development around a unified strategy grounded in data analytics. So you're bringing real world expertise to us. So we thank you. Welcome. Where does the webinar find you and a fun fact to go with it?
The webinar finds me location-wise in New York City currently. Here for our annual client appreciation event that we have every year, where we bring all of our clients in, our partners in that we appreciate and work well with. I think we're around 700 people tomorrow. Excited to be here in New York, even though I'm a Boston guy. Fun fact, I don't know, I've got too many, but my go-to is apart from the pretty boy look, I am quite the big avid metalhead. I love heavy metal. I go to a lot of like really intense metal shows. Something I've
Nice.
just always loved
Dark
in
metal.
general.
Are you a dark metal guy?
All of it, all genres, all genres. There's
I
not one
love it.
that I don't like.
Love it. Well, I bet we need to see you with your t-shirt and torn jeans on.
Yeah, it's my wife calls me quite the chameleon because I'm able to kind of just like change the look up pretty quick.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you both. Thank you both for joining us. Thank you for coming on to the webinar. Some quick housekeeping. All attendees will receive a complimentary AI benchmark report showing how you and your team compare to industry standards. I know Bill is going to share some data with us here shortly. So not only will you walk away with an AI assessment, we want you to walk away with specific examples of how AI is being used to improve partner marketing workflows and where the biggest opportunities lie for us in 2026. So no pressure, gentlemen, but here we go. Bill, let's start with you by setting the table. You've benchmarked hundreds of marketing teams across B2B. Help us understand where AI adoption really stands and where are most partner marketers and really marketing teams in general today in their AI journey.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Hondo, and everyone at Partner Vista and Ryan. I'll back up a bit, why we started looking at AI adoption as a lens to help people figure out where to go next is that, AI kind of felt like a set of decisions that were too important to leave to just the typical resources for making a decision. And, I'm not going to try and belabor too much about why I look at it, but we all know that it's going to play a role in go-to-market success in your operations, and that companies may succeed or fail based on it. And in marketing, it is a bit career existential. I mean, it has elements of like, who will survive this development of this? And but the decisions are a bit different. It isn't just like, am I going to buy this app? The amount of personal initiative being applied to AI, the infrastructure behind it, team enablement of AI so that you're lifting all boats. All of those things matter in a different way than typical tech decisions. And AI isn't just one thing. It is many, or it isn't just for one thing. It's for many different use cases. But the things that don't change are you've only got a little bit of resource to figure out what you're going to do next. And unfortunately, all of the advice sources, not to catch word, but firms, from the vendors themselves, it's pretty self-serving. And so if this is the challenge, we have to look, carefully about what to do next. And adoption, i.e., what are your peer marketers doing, reflects a kind of collective wisdom that people who voted with their feet already. Like, I have already committed my time to do something and my time and treasure. And so that's kind of an impartial and trustworthy thing to follow. I try to gather some data that helps you guide yourself on that. So I'll tell you a little bit about that, and we'll get to the data, which is AI Advantage Assessment starts with a marketer AI adoption survey. And as Hondo said, we're everyone that's here in the webinar has the ability to take the survey, and we'll give you a personalized assessment of where you're at. And it's totally free. And there's specialty sections for each marketing disciplines, for demand gen, for content marketing, for, things around partner. And everyone gets a free response there. This is an example of what we do, where we rank you, we tell you we're ahead or behind. So it's really useful. Everyone that gets the assessment has found it to be pretty great. So if we go from there about like, where are we on this front? Well, I think the biggest thing is that probably there are a lot of use cases that are already, let's call them standard practice, right? But the rest of it is all in some varying stage of emerging. So on the right here, what we're saying is like in the AI assessment survey, we asked about literally 110 different use cases. And there were 14 use cases where more than 60% of the respondents said they were using it increasingly or all the time. So in other words, you got 14 uses of AI that well over half of the people are saying it's pretty much in my workflow almost all the time, or it is something I'm really aspiring to use all the time. So that gives you kind of a level set of where the usage is. But then you got 20 more that 40 to 60% of the people are using, 40 different use cases are using it increasingly or all the time. Now, there's plenty of stuff out there that is like really out, not being used. And a measure of that is, of the 5,000 different or 7,000 different responses we got, 5,000 of them were, I don't even know what this is yet. I'm planning to use it. I haven't. So there's a lot that is sort of, on the bleeding edge, but there's a lot that you have to pay attention to that like pretty much everyone is doing. And so level set about what those types of things are. The stuff that is really in use are typically about individuals getting past the blank page, right? Where I'm like just trying to get going. And so I am trying to take something I've written and improve the writing quality. So these are use cases where 80% of the people in the survey said, I'm using it increasingly or all the time. And so that was improving writing quality, using it for a better version of web research, I'm using to create content, or using to create, to generate ideas. So it's very personal, very writing oriented. Now you get out to the bleeding edge where less than 8% of the people, then you get these kind of like more exotic stuff like dynamic pricing for e-commerce or crisis warnings. We're not really going to focus on that, but just, it sort of sets the level of like, you're going to hear a lot about AI, but there's a lot that no one's doing. So you don't need to worry about that in some way. So if we get to the stuff that is, how does this look from, just in one area to characterize it, which is, let's just talk about content creation scenarios. And that's kind of a good view of what AI adoption looks like, and frankly, something that we're all doing. And so what I've got here is saying, in that use case, what percent of the respondents said we're using it increasingly or all the time? And so the scenarios that are around creation, like I'm using content to improve content, I'm using it for summarization, you got like 86% of people doing it. But you take a big jump down where it's like, hey, improve the quality of this. And I don't just mean like the quality in terms of grammar, but the quality in terms of quality of thinking or strategic gaps. So we had here identify strategic gaps in analysis or draft my own strategies with data. There's many, many fewer people doing that, but those are some good opportunities when it comes to like the quality of your own work. And then you get into these things of like, well, I'm going to really scale my content. And then you get even less adoption here, right? So I'm applying a brand voice to my content, something that's been standardized by my company. Or I'm building derivative versions off of content. So an example of that would be taking this webinar, turning it into 4 different blog posts and an infographic, right? So you get lower adoption there and places where you can still differentiate yourself. And the final thing I'll give on in terms of presentation of data here is let's talk about a couple of common partner marketing use cases. And let's sort of pick this from different parts of the survey. And I think we said like the highest adoption stuff is giraffe for marketing content. But when we look at prospect overviews for sales. So in a partner marketing scenario, that might mean I want to know, everything that we've got around a lead that is relevant to the partner and to the OEM. We create a summary that is going to take the partner and the OEM value proposition and make it attuned to a lead. We're only looking at about 40% in a frequent use of that scenario. When it comes to case study acceleration, which again is something that is like, core to partner marketing, is talk about like how we did this together. And that might be something like, I'm going to record a quick interview with somebody, and then I'm going to turn this into a case study using AI, right? So we're down 36%. You're running a lot of campaigns. So are we doing in terms of campaign effectiveness reporting? Less than a third. And so as you see, you can get to the more sophisticated stuff. It's relatively low adoption and places for people to catch up on. So this gives you a sense of a couple of things that people use that are commonly associated with use cases for partner marketing and give you a sense of your peer adoption on this. Ryan and I had a chance to talk a bit beforehand about what he's using there, and I was frankly dazzled by what this guy's doing and pretty cool. So he'll give you his perspective on it. But like from backing up about the state of the market and where you are, wanted to give you the sense. And as I said, if you would like to see where you are or your department is relative to these results, you can go to this AI Advantage assessment, and we're doing that specifically for Partner Vista guys, where you can take the survey, or you can just email me and answer it. But I'll be around, to help participate in the survey. To this point, and I'm going to try and make sure I unshare my screen here and get us out of it.
No, those are really great data points, and we appreciate that, Bill. That's awesome. Looking into the data points, Ryan, since you're ground level, you're partner marketing, you've been doing this for a while. Like, what are you doing, and what are you seeing from your cohort, from your peers?
Yeah, totally. On the specifics guy, right? Yeah, no, Bill alluded to it a little bit. We had the pleasure of catching up in Boston, and I were just chatting about his assessment and what he's seeing. And then I kind of corroborate a lot of what he sees with, what I'm seeing in the field and in real life. And to Bill's point, a lot of people use AI in the sense of, write me this email, please make it sound happy, make it sound leadership-like, make it sound good, right? And then send. And that's where AI stops for a lot of people, right? And that is what Bill's assessment shows. But specifically with partner marketing and AI, some of the actual workflows and use cases that I'm using personally and that I've kind of helped others use, and some people have taught me, are as follows. So in partner marketing, you are going to market as partners, right? So a lot of the time I love to take a content piece from a partner that they have speeds and feeds, ICPs, ideal customer profiles, and I'll merge it with my current ICP, and then we can have a joint solution brief that we want to go to market with. So that's like a content creation piece. To Bill's point, taking a webinar like this recording and then using the transcript and grinding it out into how do I want to go to market with IT directors? How do I want to go to market with SAs, right? And then having different email talk tracks that hit your brand voice, that match your ICP, and then you can flow that into an email outreach sequence is very powerful. And I think a lot of people manually doing this, you're losing a lot of time. And that's where you lose a lot of ROI, right? So you should always put this through a very fine-tuned window of how you want to put this content out into the world. Because the age-old saying of content is king, in my personal opinion, is dead. Like, I don't know if you've seen the movie Incredibles. If everyone's super, nobody is, right? Everyone can use AI. Nobody's special. How do you make AI special for you? I said this in a podcast with Partner Vista a while ago. So if you guys have watched that, you'll hear me kind of reiterating a couple things here. But I think it's very important to have the human thumbprint in your work. So use it as the thing that gets you 80% of the way, and then take it the rest of the 20, put your stamp on it. And the things that are unique to you, your experiences, the things that you've lived, how you think, are very important to make sure that what you're putting out from a content point of view is yours versus slop. Examples of that are, one of the things I like to do is I'll just talk to my phone. I like to use OpenAI's microphone feature on the phone. It uses Whisper, which is the backend that does speech to text very well. I think it's the best one out there that does it. And there's plenty of other tools that can do this too. Use a voice
I think
memo.
GPT does it as well.
Yeah, just talk. How you talk, your cadence, your flow, the words you use, and just kind of like start putting that together. Put it in a text document, put it into a GPT or into a project. If you use Claude, I believe they call them projects. ChatGPT's GPT, Gemini uses gems. Put that in there as like examples, context, so they understand your tone, the way you speak, the things that you often say. And then you can put that out into market, and it will use your words, your flow, your context as a way of writing. And that really helps fine tune the content that you're putting out into market. And then consequentially, you can do the same thing. You can take all your brand pieces and use those as examples. So if you're using a brand creator, so these are all like little bits and pieces, and I can go on in use cases. I have a whole bunch of different workflows I can talk about here. So, and if I don't touch on anything, and if I'm sparking anyone's like interest, you want to DM me on LinkedIn, like, put aside 3 hours, because I'll chat AI all day.
No, that's awesome. I love everything that you're sharing there. I think you talked about it on the podcast, some of the, like, your quick win corner.
Yeah.
I know that you touched on a few workflows, but what are some workflows that you believe have been helpful for you when you first started? I mean, content, you said content, is king. I think
Used to be.
a lot of the partner marketers on here are working with content a lot. Maybe beyond the content workflow, what's another workflow that someone can get started with?
Absolutely. I think it's really important for you to take the time to learn a little bit about how to structure a prompt, how to utilize prompts. I think some really good resources are, if you go to ChatGPT, they call it their cookbook. They actually post blogs on like how to prompt in 5.1 that just came out. Gemini 3 just came out yesterday. This is like bleeding edge stuff. They have a whole entire white paper that's like, I don't know, 60 pages long or something like that, that really has in-depth way of prompting. All this information is out there. You can take that, you can put it into Notebook LM, which is a tool that will disseminate this information and give you that information quickly to learn about it. And that's kind of how I started. I have a select group of content creators on Instagram, TikTok, and Discord that I like to follow. Finding the right ones that actually are telling you the truth versus the noise, and they just want to sell you something, is something you should be cognizant of. And I've learned a lot of tricks along the way. A workflow that I'll just toss out there, one I just literally used yesterday. Gemini is extremely good at creating a infographic. And the way you do this, if you have Gemini Pro, this isn't on the free version, but if you have Gemini Pro, you just put in, please create an infographic based on this. And a live example of what I just did yesterday. I have a chart of 30 field events that we have coming up in Q4. And I wanted an infographic of these. This isn't PII. This is all just data, strict data. And I put this right into Gemini, and I say, please develop an infographic based on this chart that has locations, it has the event type, it has all this information on just in a grid. It's a picture. It's not even like an actual Excel thing. I drop that picture of a screenshot into Gemini, develop an infographic. It will spit me out a beautiful infographic in a HTML format that I can then just screenshot and drop into my PowerPoint slide. I could spend 45 minutes developing that exact same graphic in PowerPoint, or I can spend 3 minutes in Gemini and doing that. Quick. The time that you get back in using AI in such a way into your day makes you have more time to spend on the things that matter, not the admin work. So those are like little examples of things that I'll use AI for.
Okay. No, I love that. I think those are all great examples. I think you're touching on something around experimentation. So, like, how do you balance experimentation with accountability to the role that you have and to the team and to your partners? So, Bill, like, How do you balance, or how should partner marketers balance experimentation with accountability when I would say that AI budgets are relatively small or possibly MDF driven? Is there anything to your data that, speaks to experimentation and accountability?
I think so before I get there, let me say, first of all, I think Ryan's last use case is, let's put where that is in context, is the image creation or use of like for infographics. First of all, from the tech target days, that stuff kills in lead gen, right? You put a graphic up or an infographic and you tell them as opposed to a white paper, that's a really high performing thing, high click through, high rates of getting leads. If you use like some of the ways you can use AI are terrible for creating graphics. Like they create these things that are nonsensical. So the way that, Ryan talked about it with the latest Gemini Pro stuff is important because because of this, some of the times it puts this really sloppy type of stuff that comes out. The relative adoption of AI for creating graphics or creating visuals is much lower than you expect. It's like below a third of people are using it on an increasing basis. So that's a place where if you can get out with some of that right now, and either for public stuff or internal work, you can be differentiated in how you're doing it. As far as the accountability side, remember the interesting thing about AI is that it is such a personal productivity tool to start, right? As a starting point, if you've got a license, there's a lot you can do, right? I have to say, some of this is from my own experience, which is like, I think you want to test stuff on your own. Just start putting your own documents, your own white papers, your own presentation, your own data, put it up in there in your own personal space in your tool that you've got and start working with it, right? I would ask for permission later. And so on this personal accountability thing, there's a lot of like, we got to be really careful. We don't want to be sharing all this information. I'm like, just start doing it, right? Start using it on your own. But the accountability factor has got to be, don't assume the AI is going to get it right. You understand the taste, what is true to your company, what is true about your partner companies. And so the accountability, I think that probably is the most important thing you have to have in AI is not trusting what comes out, is that you have got to take a look at what has been delivered to you and double check it, right? You've got to double check that it fits like what you know about your company, what you know about your partner, because it will really lean out into areas that like are not true or not right. Hallucination is like the most friendly term you could ever come up with what it is. Sometimes it is wrong, right? It is wrong. And so you have to be checking yourself on that. I think the idea is like get risky and frisky with this stuff, but like make sure you're checking it yourself, right? Because that will, that will differentiate you professionally. It will differentiate your partnership because you're doing things that are advanced and in greater quantity. But you have to hold yourself to that quality standard of like, I know AI did this, but if you get the sense of like, well, this isn't that great, or that kind of looks like some of the stuff. Like, I'll give you an example of accountability that I don't see around this, right? There's been for years and years with white papers, we couldn't get at Tech Target, we couldn't get people to do the white papers on topics that people really cared about. And now with AI, they're hitting all the topics, right? Their topics are being hit by your vendors and by your own companies. But you click through and you're like, wow, it's pretty obvious this was AI generated. And so I think they're hitting the point, but they're not holding themselves accountable to quality, right? And
That's a great
so, I
point.
mean, if I'm picking on a line with what Ryan said, content has become, you can produce a lot of it faster, and you need to. You absolutely need to, because that's the competition there. But now, again, quality will become important again, right? Because now, if you want true engagement in a partner marketing scenario, people will be able to tell the difference between something that was AI generated and something that had the personal quality on this very soon, right? So I'm not sure if that's all the points. There's certainly many points of accountability, Hondo.
Yeah.
But like those are the things that like sort of to me feel like super important. You may have other accountability things that you're trying to go after there.
No, I
Just
just really
because
wanted
it's top
to.
just to add on to that, and it's because you just said it. The one thing, you know how everyone's like, oh, there's an M dash and that's done by AI. Now I know if I hear another, it's not insert something here, it's insert something here. It takes me right out of it. As soon as I'm reading that and I see like that, it's current partner marketing isn't actually this, it's actually this. Like that is such an AI-ism, and there's so many AI-isms. If you look closely, you'll start seeing them that is just oftenly used. And that goes back to my earlier point that If you train it on the way of writing and you tell it in your context window to don't use M dashes, don't use this architecture and these types of things, you're going to have content that is actually you speaking in a way that is way better than what, Bill kind of just said. If you're reading something and it's just AI slop, it just, you lose all credibility. It's just instantly out the window. And then when I read something and I see that architecture, I'm just like, roll my eyes, move on to the next.
No, I think that's fair enough. I think we're seeing it out there. And I think to Bill's point, it is, and to your point, Ryan, it is quality over quantity, but quantity is what we're seeing right now. We're seeing a lot of quantity. We're seeing a lot of content out there. I think people are using AI to your data, to what your data was speaking to, Bill, is that people are getting familiar with AI through content development and through content workflows. So we are seeing a lot out there. But I think back to your point, Ryan, is that it just needs to be quality. It just really needs to be quality. And quality, I think, in turn, boils down to return on investment, to ROI. And I think from an ROI perspective, I think what we're saying here is that the data that we're putting in, that we're feeding the AI, has to be good, right? It has to be of quality. So from there, I'd love to hear more around that. Is like, how does an AI ready marketing team or partner organization look like? Like, what does that mean from like them, initiating and having clean data? So what does an AI ready partner organization look like? Either way, if you want to jump in.
Sure, I could take that first real quick. I think one of the biggest flaws that happen, whether you who are listening can influence this directly or indirectly, is standard way of talking or training. So, I mean, everyone's out there, to Bill's point, out there doing their thing and figuring it out. And somebody has a workflow and then another person has a workflow. But I feel like a lot of organizations are like, AI, right? Like, we're going to use AI. And they have this AI thing and they just throw it over the fence and they throw it into their organization and say, there, we have AI, right? There's so much to be done. And there's so much like chaos that can happen with just doing it that way without proper training, without structure, without here are examples, without leadership in this space. You're not going to see ROI. You're just going to have a bunch of people running around with their heads cut off. And I think it's extremely important to either a leader in your unit or the company as a whole architect a way to have normality in the way that you use AI. And I mean that in the sense of, we use ChatGPT at Myriad, and we have an enterprise license, and we can share GPTs that we create amongst our other coworkers. So I have a couple of GPTs that I've created for my specific team, and I gave it to them. I said, here's how to use it. This is how I like you to enable others to use it. This is the instruction behind it. And I built that out for them. So that way we're all speaking the same language. It's like everything that you use in your organization. There needs to be that consistency. So I think that's right there in my mind, a big win.
Cool. Bill, anything to add there? I think you're on mute.
You're on mute, Bill.
Thank you. So let's talk about, personal use. We talked about that. You're just diving in and trying it. If I'm thinking about this from a leadership perspective, right? First of all, you can think about what are the management practices that are being adopted to actually encourage AI adoption at the grassroots level. And we go into the survey about that. At a high level, like licenses for everyone, that's standard. That's like everyone has to do it. And you can't even attract people to your team unless you're doing it. But then you start diving into like how many people have actually given the people training or given them budget for training. It drops way down, right? And depending on webinars or podcasts like this for the training, it's really not that super comprehensive, right? And so you want some kind of a comprehensive training for more people so that they can feel comfortable with it. Then the next tier down is, am I working with other departments on AI projects, right? And so hackathons at software companies or hardware companies are pretty popular. Again, you see really few of them doing something with IT and marketing, that they are together trying to solve problems and exercising that muscle of doing it. So, there's some things to think about from a management perspective. Or are you encouraging that? But if you're really getting strategic about making this really work, and it is quite different across partnership or across a company border, that leads a different level of complexity there. But just outlining every process you have. If you're the leader of partner marketing, and thinking about what are our core processes and data sources we have, and just literally listing them out, and then thinking like, okay, where are we going to try AI out on this? And some of them might not be until late 2026, but you really want to think about like, is there an application that we should be trying here? And which of these can I do on my own And which of these do I need someone else's help with? And just prioritizing it that way, right? So the content stuff is easy. You do it on your own. Lead scoring effectively across 2 different ICPs. Okay, that might take a little bit. You can probably do that on your own. But things that are, actually accessing systems, you're probably going to need to work over time. So I think it's sort of laying out every process you got, thinking about, and just brutally prioritizing to the ones that I can control. I don't need IT involved, but then thinking about the high value ones and being like, okay, I got to get there because it's coming.
Yep.
And how do I get there is something you can talk broadly about the team. So don't make the quick wins be the enemy of like where you need to go, right? Think about it a bit strategically and bring it up. Bring it up a level to your boss, your CEO, and be like, "Hey, this is the roadmap I think we should be thinking about," and then engage with the rest of the organization. When we talk to people about adoption increase, though, we definitely say let's start with the things that you don't need to talk to anybody about. You can just do on your own, right? Let's start there, but like, let's not be fooled that that's the end game.
Thank you for that. We're moving through this very quickly, but I want to get to a couple questions coming from the audience. How do you separate AI hype from practical reality? And I think Ryan, you touched on this a little bit, but how do you bring it down to ground level, and how can I get into implementation? It's buzzing around us every day, every second of the day.
Yeah, I mean, look, I said this earlier, like look for the news through the noise. And what I mean by that is I'm a skeptic at heart. I just really am. I've always been that way. And I think like if you're listening to something and it ends with like comment this to learn more, or I'll send you this, it just be wary of those who are trying to sell you, right? Look for those who are trying to help. And then I think that's where I've learned a lot from the community. Again, if you want to DM me on LinkedIn, I'm happy to share all the people that I'm learning from on Instagram. There's plenty of great content creators out there who are not trying to sell you anything, who just genuinely are teaching stuff. And you can learn a ton just by looking around. Now, because it's such a hype cycle and a big AI bubble, which, there's a lot in the news now about AI being a bubble, I do believe it is from a market point of view, but there's undeniability about the fact that it is an engine that's moving us forward. Like it is a bubble to its like hypeness, but it is reality, and we are moving forward. And this is something that is important in our life right now. It's like a .com era. The .com era was a bubble that burst, but we have the internet, right? Like the AI is a bubble that may burst, but we will have agentic AI and AGI. Like that, those are things that will happen. Stay on top of it. If you haven't vibe coded, vibe code. Learn this stuff. Look into it. Slack has I'm sure plenty of organizations use Slack. Slack has a bot or like a slice off environment that you can actually go and use JSON code to develop a formatted way to drop a Slack message into your environment, right? You ever like write something and then drop a picture and the picture's at the bottom? You can build it so the picture's on the top and it looks all really nice in your environment, but you kind of need a code for that. You don't really need to learn how to code in JSON. Just tell Gemini or ChatGPT what you want to do. Tell it to give you the JSON code, copy the code, drop it in the thing, push the Slack environment. It's that simple. So like these are the things you should always kind of be looking to do and improving your workflows. And every time that in my mind that I can save time, I'm doing the right thing and I'm producing ROI because my time is the company's money.
Love it. That's great. I love the practicality there. Like I said, we're getting here towards the end. We've spent some good time here. We've got a couple more questions, but I want to kind of wrap this up with kind of a look forward, if you will, for partner marketers who don't have a data science or ops team. Like, what's your advice on starting small? I know we've touched on it a little bit here, but like, what are the low stakes workflows that, if you haven't delved into it, it's been buzzing around you, you're listening to this webinar, you're taking the advice from Ryan, you're taking the data from Bill, like what are some low stake workflows that they can look to, start today?
I'll give 2 off the rip and then pass to Bill. If you haven't made a GPT in ChatGPT or a project in Claude or a project in ChatGPT or Gem and Gemini, like I'm talking like really entry level stuff here, do that. Like that, just start there. Like learn what that is. Learn how to use AI in a way where it is fine-tuned to the thing that you're looking to accomplish. And just start there. I think that's a great start point. And then the world will start opening up as to like getting real nice specifics out of AI.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bill?
I would say effective lead follow-up, in a partner scenario. So I think that you got 3 sources. You got your value prop, you got the partner value prop, and you've got what do you know and their ICPs, right? And historical strengths. And you've got what do you know about this person? That is probably one of the more common partner program scenarios, is making sure that that first, second, third email is like takes all of those things and does it in a compelling and short way. And trying to pull those three data sources together, even on a onesie twosie basis, because sometimes, a lot of partner programs, I don't know, you're not working with a lot of leads, right? You're working with a small one. So each one of them has to be pretty carefully followed up on, right? And so it can be a really good use case for that to significantly improve the outreach and the calls that you do off of it. So, I would, and that is certainly, when you look at the sales adoption, the ability to create the ability to create good pitches like that is something that should be coming out of AI. I don't actually see it when I get pitched up. I don't see like this stuff that's really compelling and targeted to me. But like, I feel like that's a place that I would want to make sure I've ticked the box on, because obviously if you can increase your yield rate, lead to opportunity rate in a partner marketing program, that's a big win for you. Each one of those things is like hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I might put it in the middle there if I were going to think about one thing to start with.
No, I appreciate that. Huge thanks to you, Bill and Ryan, and thank you all for joining. We're getting here towards the end here. Don't want to keep you too long, but hopefully this was informative. Hopefully it was fun. This has just definitely been great. I've learned a lot from you two just in this short amount of time. We look forward to your feedback. We're willing to answer any questions. Like Ryan was saying, hit us in the DMs of LinkedIn. You can get our emails. You can just email us at PartnerVista at info@partnervista.com, or again, drop a note in LinkedIn and we can get back to you. There will be a replay link and resources that will go out here in the next 24 to 48 hours. And of course, don't forget to claim your free AI benchmark report to see where you and your teams kind of stack up. I think that's coming to you directly after this, but at least in the next 24 hours. So thank you very much for being with us, Bill,
Cool.
Ryan. And as always, remember, friends don't let friends go to market alone. Sign up for our Never Go to Market Alone newsletter, the only newsletter built exclusively for technology partner marketers, where we deliver actionable playbooks, peer-tested strategies, and AI-forward partner marketing insights to help you lead, execute, and grow fearlessly. As a subscriber, you'll also secure your spot on the Never Go to Market Alone Slack community waitlist. That's it, and thank you again. Viva la Vista, partner marketers. We out.